Welcome to Metro World Entertainment Television. I'm your host, Donald Dr. D.R. Riles. And today we have with us a very talented young man. He is a saxophonist and a 3-time winner of Showtime at the Apollo. And his name is Brandon Primus. Brandon.
How you doing?
Fine. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I can't complain. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for coming tonight. So tell us, how did you get involved with the saxophone?
All right. Well, that's a really, really interesting story. My mom, growing up, would play a lot of music that was saxophone driven. James Brown, Earth, Wind and Fire, some Anita Baker stuff.
Baker.
Kenny G, John Cole, just all this sax driven music, right? And I tried to sing and I couldn't sing. That wasn't happening. That wasn't happening. So I went to Keithville Middle School to the beginning band summit that they had. And I walked in and the band director was playing some Coltrane music. And I heard it. I said, I want to play tenor saxophone. And right there on the spot, he asked me, he said, so you want to play jazz, huh? And I was bashful. Everybody's looking at me,
Right.
But I said, yeah, and it's been history ever since.
All right. So do you play any other instruments besides the saxophone?
I do. I play piano. Was actually my first instrument.
Okay.
That was the first instrument I ever learned, and then I developed the skill level to play saxophones.
All right. Yeah. You said you developed the skill level. I understand that the saxophone is like one of the most difficult instruments to play.
The saxophone is interesting because piano has its own voice, but when anyone hits a C note, it's going to give you the same kind of tone, pretty much. There's only so, and a lot of musicians are arguing down on this, but this is the truth. There's so much variance that there's only so much variance that can go on with the limited melodic and harmonic structure of a piano, right? But with saxophone, I mean, it's just as versatile as the human voice. So you're not only are you having to control the instrument with the keys, but you have to think about and you have to listen to what you're doing with your mouth at the same time because you control the pitch. So it can be very complicated, especially in jazz when you have all these changes and you're having to come off your head with stuff.
Now, some people believe that they can just teach themselves to play an instrument. Like they can go to the music store and buy a book, and just learn to play an instrument that way. Do you believe that to be the case?
You know what? I guess it would depend on your definition of playing the instrument.
Oh, right.
Okay. So anybody can get a horn and blow some notes, But I think, and this is often a huge misconception, particularly as it relates to a lot of black jazz musicians that we just learn how to play.
Right.
That's not true. Miles went to Juilliard. You have to have some level, I believe, of music theory, of some sort of foundation in music as a science to really branch out and understand the true capacity of music in general, not just limited to jazz.
Wow. Well, just by listening to you, we can tell that you are very knowledgeable in your craft. So tell us something about your education.
Well, I went to Berkeley College of Music.
Berkeley.
Now let me stop.
Okay, I'm glad you said Boston. Because a lot of people out in California, they hear you say Berkeley, they think
UC Berkeley.
Yes, right.
Yeah, it was just a great school.
Yeah, absolutely.
UC Berkeley is fantastic. I went to the Berkeley College of Music in Boston.
Berkeley College of Music.
Yeah. And Quincy Jones was one of the graduates, Branford Marsalis. I mean, the list goes on and on. Rochelle Farrell, Walter Beasley, who I actually studied with. He was my private instructor at Berkeley. Wow. And that was a treat. Billy Pierce played with Art Blakey. Was the dean of the saxophone department. And I met with him so many times. So I did get a really well-rounded, incredible music education.
So let me ask you, who are some of your musical influences? Yes.
All right. Do we have enough time for that? So, I mean, my number one musical influence would have to be Miles.
Miles.
Yeah, because
But Miles plays the trumpet.
Miles does play trumpet, but compositionally, I think Miles, thinking beyond the limitations of an instrument and going into the realm of thinking about music in terms of musicianship, I think Miles Davis, I mean, he started about 5 different genres of music.
Absolutely.
Like, he just didn't stop at pop, or he didn't stop at the cool period, or he didn't stop at funk fusion, but he, started experimenting with sampling and all that, which later became known as hip hop.
Yes.
So I think Miles is by far my number one influence. But then, I listen to Dream Theater, who's a progressive rock band for their chops. I'll listen to, of course, John Coltrane.
Right.
I like John Coltrane because, I mean, he just epitomized like the essence of experimentation with a saxophone. I mean, he just pushed it to the limits.
Oh, he sure did.
I do like, the more new contemporary jazz artists. I think Kenny G has some good stuff.
Right.
I like some of his compositions, that kind of thing. Boney James is another good guy. Gerald Albright plays the keys off the horn. That's and he's also a phenomenal bass player. And those are a couple of my favorites.
Now it's quite apparent that you really love jazz, but I'm just wondering, you're such a young guy. Why not some soul, some R&B, some funk?
Yeah, well, you know what? I like it all.
You like it all?
I like what you call good music. You know what I mean? I know that's subjective, but I like jazz. I love hip hop. I love the roots. I'm not too fond of commercialized rap music, but I do like very organic, politically driven, socially conscious hip hop music because I believe that it has the same organic structure as jazz. It came from the same places, So, I like funk, I love Earth, Wind and Fire, James Brown, Maceo Parker.
Maceo, absolutely.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Now, a number of years ago, I don't know if you know this jazz album, but it was called Jazz is Dead.
Okay.
Okay. I was just wondering, what is the state of jazz today?
That's an interesting question because, I mean, jazz, when people think of jazz, if we had 20 different people in the room, we'd get 20 different answers, because jazz itself is not a stagnant, or it should not be a stagnant form of art because of how it was developed. It was developed off of ingenuity and inspiration and innovation and doing different things. So I think jazz itself has molded and kind of morphed into some elements of hip hop, some elements of this new thing we call neo soul, which is very, very jazzy, and it connects, I think, to the jazz elements the most. But then you have Esperanza Spalding, who's actually one of my classmates at Berkeley.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
And incredible bassist. So she takes elements of traditional jazz and kind of molds it into her own piece, So I don't think jazz will ever be dead, I think it's just the way we think about jazz, we have to be a little bit more progressive in our thinking.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Now, I saw you at the 4 Point Sheraton a couple of months ago. And I mean, you guys were killing it. You were killing it up there. So I was just wondering, what is the live entertainment scene like here in San Diego?
I moved from New York to San Diego. New York and San Diego's music, scenes are very, very different. I think San Diego which is a good thing. I think San Diego is more laid back.
Okay.
When I came from New York, and I think you can still hear it in my playing a little bit. I have, kind of a bite to it sometimes. Because it's so much. There's so much in the community in New York, and there's so much energy in the city. It comes out creatively. Whereas in San Diego, it's a little bit more laid back. I learned how to groove a little bit more and just kind of chill out a little bit.
Right.
So I think San Diego has a great music scene. It's a little bit more laid back, a little bit more chill. But I think that's good. I think that's good for the environment.
You hear them talk about West Coast jazz.
Yeah.
Could that possibly be why it's kind of?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Like I said, the the way jazz is structured, the way jazz has come to existence, has been from the environment that it was born in. So if you're in New York, it's hustle and bustle and all this kind of stuff. Well, you get bebop. Let me hurry up and get to where I'm going. You know what I mean? Whereas the West Coast, everything's laid back, so you get like Take Five, Dave Brubeck, that kind of thing happening, real laid back, kind of chill, And down south it's just the same thing. You get a more chill kind of, you get a little funk, a little spice, because down south can kind of be spicy, New Orleans flavor, but it's still a little bit more laid back, so it's very territorial.
All right. Now, like I said, when I saw you guys at the Sheraton Fly Pump, you guys were killing it, and I was just wondering, where did all these great musicians come from? Is it difficult to find good side players here in San Diego?
No, there are a lot of good players here.
Oh, really?
There are some incredible musicians here. The thing about it though, in forming a band, you have to find the right fit. It's like trying to build a house with Lego blocks. You got to find the right fit to give you the right kind of sound that you want. Because you can have a band full of all-stars and sound crazy. You know what I mean? Like you can have a lot, everybody can play, but the cohesiveness is not there. So you have to get the right. So it took me a while to find the right players to do the right kind of things that, for the sound that I hear. But I think it took a long time. It took some work, networking, but I think I did it.
So, I used to play a little bass guitar.
Okay.
Very little bass guitar.
Okay.
And I used to subscribe to Bass Player magazine, and they'd always come up with these lists, the 30 essential bass players you have to listen to and all that. Performances. Tell us, what do you think of some of the essential jazz saxophonists?
Essential.
For a lover of the sax.
Yeah. If I leave somebody's name off this list, that doesn't mean that you're not essential. That's just a little caveat.
Right.
But number one, John Coltrane. I mean, and that's debatable, But I think John Coltrane. I mean, he is a master of the horn in so many different ways. He can, hard bop you, and then play a beautiful ballad like Naima. And so you hear the full potential and expressiveness of the saxophone. Cannonball Adderley is another great guy. If you like blues, you get a different flavor from Coltrane.
Right.
You get more of a bluesy kind of, down south. He was at FAMU, is where Cannonball went to school.
Okay.
And he brings.
He played with Miles too, didn't he?
He played with Miles in the same band with Coltrane.
That's right.
Because they had two very different, distinct sounds and can do very different things over the same chordal structure. So it was. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
Then you have. Let me give you another guy. George Howard is another guy.
George Howard, yeah.
That's a really good soprano sax player that kind of combine. I mean, a lot of people would classify it as smooth jazz, this whole thing. But the way he approached the music, he approached it from a very traditional jazz kind of place. A lot of good mechanical devices, and I think another contemporary saxophonist would be Kenny Garrett. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but oh my God, he's a beast. It's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, tell our audience what projects you have coming up now. We talked about some other jazz players. Let's talk about you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what projects do you have coming up?
So I released a project after I did the whole Apollo thing, and that project is currently on CD Baby.
Oh, okay.
But I can tell you what's in the working. I'm working on a project that's going to be a hybrid of, R&B, neo soul, and kind of rock, something with a little bit more of an edge on it. It's kind of indicative of, if you went to the show, you could kind of hear, it was kind of smooth, but it was a little bit hard. It kind of pushed the envelope a little bit.
Right.
And that has more traditional kind of jazz elements to it. So maybe almost like a Renaissance, like a neo jazz, if you will, like that kind of feel to it.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I look forward to
2012.
2012.
2012.
All right. Now, if there's some young person out there who's watching us right now, And he says, I want to be like Brandon Primus. What advice would you give to him? Or her?
Okay. I would tell him to lose weight.
No.
It takes a lot of energy to play saxophone.
Oh, okay, I got
way
you.
too much to get tired on stage.
I got
But
you.
I think the number one thing is to leave. Don't lock yourself into a box.
Okay.
Don't say this is what I play and I only play this. Because then you're locked into this thing and you can't branch out, and that doesn't leave room for very much else, So keep your mind open, keep an open mind, live with an open mind and an open heart. That's what I would tell somebody.
All right, well, fantastic. Well, Brandon, I want to thank you for stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. We're going to have you come back again because I want to get into this showtime at the Apollo. I want to hear about that.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, sir.
It's a bunch of laughs.
I'm sure it is. So this is saxophonist Brandon Primus. And this is Dr. DR, and we'll be right back on Metro World Entertainment Television.
Welcome to Metro World Entertainment Television. I'm your host, Sabrina Anderson. Today we have a very special guest with us, owner and operator of Key 56 Internet Radio, Robert Goodman. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
Good to have you. Now I have to tell you, I don't know much about Internet Radio.
Okay.
So what is Internet Radio?
Well, Internet radio is a system of broadcasting that uses the Internet to get their signal out. That's basically what it is. That's the only difference between Internet radio and over-the-air radio.
Okay. And how does Internet radio differ from over-the-air radio?
Okay, well, like I was saying,
Yeah.
one of the main differences is that an over-the-air radio station sends its signal out to a transmitter and then it's broadcast over the air. An Internet radio station sends its audio signal to a server, which is a computer, and then that server sends a signal out to the Internet. So if you have any kind of Internet connection, you have access to the Internet radio station
So
signal.
you can listen to it anywhere.
Exactly, which is an advantage for Internet radio over what we call terrestrial or over-the-air radio.
Okay. A lot of the stuff you're saying is kind of confusing to me.
Sorry.
Is audio streaming the same as on-demand radio?
No, it isn't.
And what is the difference?
Okay, the difference is when something is on demand, that means it has been previously recorded and it's stored on a computer on the Internet, and it just waits there until someone's computer accesses that file, then the file will start playing. With streaming, like at our radio station, Key 56, the audio signal is continuously going into the computer. It's similar to an over-the-air radio station that signal is continuously hitting your radio. So when we stream, the signal is continuously going to your computer or whatever device you're using to receive the signal.
So how would you do like playlists? Can you put playlists into your program and then just have it continuously playing to?
Well, the way Internet radio works is similar in this regard to over-the-air radio. You have a DJ there, and the DJ is picking the music that's being played. But in terms of playlists, most radio stations, including like our radio station, we use automation software. We have DJs most of the time, but when there's not a DJ, the computer will select music to play. So in that regard, we're building a playlist. It's similar to creating a playlist using an iPod, where you build your playlist, you go ahead and play it, and the computer does it for us at our radio station.
Now you said you have a DJ there as well. Like how people do, they call in the radio station, they ask for they request for songs to be played.
Right.
Can you do that with the Internet radio as well?
Absolutely. You can request songs, primarily because we have listeners from all over the world. We receive our requests through email.
Okay.
I mean, we get requests from all over the place. I mean, Japan. I could just sit here and just name all sorts of countries and different cities that we receive.
So you can play everywhere.
Yes, exactly. So most of them, instead of calling us, most of them send email.
So does Internet radio only offer music?
No. One of the things that makes Internet radio so popular is because there are lots of diverse formats. You have everything from polka music different talk shows. There's a radio station that plays nothing but Rick James 24 hours a day. So that's one of the reasons why internet radio is actually pulling listeners from over-the-air radio, and they're really concerned about that. But no, internet radio is a very diverse entity, and that's one of the reasons, like I said, it's very, very popular.
You said that they're worried about people being pulled from the radio to internet radio, but I think that's the way it's going to go, because everybody, they're on their laptops, they're on their desktops, and
Exactly.
I mean, why have a radio sitting on the side when you can listen to the radio right from your computer?
Exactly. It's really stirring up the over-the-air broadcast industry. They don't really know what to do. They introduced a technology called HD radio, which would allow an over-the-air radio station to broadcast another radio station on a different frequency, but that technology and that idea is falling flat. Consumers are not willing to spend money on a new over-the-air radio, whereas they are willing to purchase internet-only radios that can sit on your tabletop or your nightstand. And obviously people are listening to internet radio now on their cell phones. And I heard that Chrysler will introduce an internet radio that they'll have in-dash in their new cars.
Wow.
So internet radio is really moving forward, and like I said, the other broadcast industry, over-the-air industry, is really concerned, and they should be. They should be.
Well, you seem to know a lot about internet radio. Can you give us a brief history view of it?
Well, internet radio really took off in the early, well, it started in the early 1990s. One of the reasons was because the FCC allocates frequencies for broadcast stations to use across the country, but there's no more room for new radio stations. So people who wanted to have their own radio station, they had two choices. They could broadcast illegally and possibly interfere with a licensed over-the-air radio station, or they could start an online radio station. One of the things that really boosted internet radio's popularity was when the technology moved away from modems. I don't know, you remember the modems?
Yeah.
When you go to get online, you hear all this noise
Yeah.
going on and all these, all these different weird sounds. Well, that provided you with just a small amount of bandwidth. But now everyone has broadband, ISDN. I remember listening to one of the few stations that was on in the early 90s. It was a station from Hawaii. And when I listened to it, it sounded like music on a telephone. And that doesn't sound too good. So with the advent, as I said, of broadband, the sound on internet radio now is just superb.
I'm really going to have to check that out, because honestly, I've never listened to internet radio, and I'm going to check out Key 56. I definitely am.
Do that.
How many people listen to internet radio?
Well, according to the latest Arbitron survey, 60 million people listen to internet radio at least once a week. So that would translate roughly into 7 out of 10 people listen to internet radio
That's a lot of
every
people.
week. It is a lot of people. It's really a growing industry.
And what is the future of internet radio?
Well, the future of internet radio is really bright. I think it's going to overtake over-the-air radio, and I think that what will happen is the two will sort of merge together. You won't be able to tell the difference between an over-the-air radio station and an internet radio station. And the last hurdle for those of us in the internet radio industry is getting that internet radio signal into the car. And we're probably a year away from that. And once that happens, once that happens, then it's on.
Wow.
Between us and the over-the-air radio stations. And I don't mean that in like a confrontational sense, but that's going to just be more competition for them.
Yeah, very true.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I learned a lot about internet radio.
All right.
I can't wait to go home and listen. Thank
Check
you
that.
so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
So, hey, appreciate it, dude. How y'all doing tonight? So that song is titled Mr. SB, and that song was written by Steve and I at a rehearsal, and it just grew so hard. We're just like, okay, we'll just name the song Mr. SB, Steve and Brandon, and just jam out on it. We almost got a little carried away. We have 3 more hours to go, so you can only imagine how the rest of the night's gonna go. So the next song we're gonna do is this song "So What" by Miles Davis. We're gonna take it back to jazz and put a little twist to it. So here we go.